MetaHuman. It came out now 3 or 4 years ago. I still have the scars from the first year that we decided to use it in production. And so MetaHuman is an incredible piece of software that lets you basically design human beings, meta-human beings, not real human beings, not yet. Anyway, so but it lets you design a variety of characters that you can then bring into Unreal or many other pieces of software, and it really does give us a way to build lots and lots of unique characters. And so we've talked about it in the past, but we thought it would be good to bring it back and have another conversation because it's changed, it's updated, it's gotten better in the past couple of years. So Nick, who has done a fair bit, and I've actually done work with Nick in MetaHuman and in Unreal. Thought we'd bring him back and talk about where we're at. Nick, take it away.
Thanks, Alex. Yeah, I mean, MetaHumans are a good 3 years old now in terms of public availability. Of course, they've been in development for longer than that. But I think they became publicly available at about this time in 2021. And they've certainly matured quite a bit in the last 3 years. And it's in keeping with Epic's overall kind of mantra of it's very easy to get started and it's no cost. And then if you want to dig in deeper and deeper and deeper, there's a whole rabbit hole of advanced features that you can get into. But I think the exciting thing is that there's no cost to get started and you can immediately create very photorealistic characters digitally with these tools. You can bring them into Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine has gone through a number of revisions over these same 3 years and have dramatically improved things like the animation tools and motion capture retargeting tools. Really, now it is fairly straightforward to use almost any motion capture system to capture body movements and apply them to MetaHumans natively within its own ecosystem. And that's a really big improvement. And another thing that's improved over time has been the availability of alternative clothing and uniforms and things like that. I mean, the MetaHuman tool natively has a small selection of clothing to choose from, but now that they've been in the wild for so long, there's plenty of 3D modelers and fashion designers that have been creating content for alternative costumes and such. So that's kind of the overview of where we're at. I don't know if you want to start digging into any of it.
Let's dig into it. Let's show people what it is. I think that it's been a long time since we've talked about it, so there'll be a lot of people watching that haven't seen it. So let's go ahead and kind of give people an introduction to how you put something together. Now, this is, by the way, so one of the things you do need to do is have an Epic account. So you're gonna sign up for your Epic account, then you join it. It's kind of a funny thing. It's spinning up a server for you when you jump into MetaHuman. So it takes a couple minutes. So you sign in for your account, and then go get a tea or coffee or whatever, and then come back, and it's gonna take a little time because it's actually spinning an instance up on AWS, I believe, to serve you. You really have your own server over the web to work with. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah. Do you prefer I share screen through my camera feed? I can hopefully switch. There you go. So now you're seeing through my camera feed what the MetaHuman creator interface basically looks like. If you search for MetaHuman creating, you probably get to this page first, which is Unreal Engine MetaHuman. And then if you scroll down, there's a launch in the app. But as Alex was just saying, you do want to use your Epic account, which is free to create on all of their websites. There's a button here that you can do that. And then this button, launch the app, it's a web app. So you can use this on any device that is, basically supports Chrome or a modern browser. And on the other end of this web browser, there's an AWS server that is running the interface. And so I'm going to show the most basic, straightforward way of editing a MetaHuman. So this one I've created before. So I've got it selected, and I'll edit selected. And the app, again, it's running on a server somewhere. And so this could be on Mac or PC, and it'd be equally as effective. So now I can choose blend here. And what's set up here is I've got a number of template characters to choose from. So these are existing characters with a variety of ethnicities and facial features. And from them, I can put them into essentially like a painter's palette where you might normally mix colors. Instead, we're mixing physical traits of
And these
characters.
And you're not mixing the whole face. And these are kind of using these as seeds, and you're simply mixing different attribute. I want the eyes that are a little bit like this or a little bit like something else, but you're kind of moving it around and mixing it for the eyes or the nose or the forehead, right?
Correct. So if I were to begin this process, the first thing I do is choose essentially the base MetaHuman, the initial template. So in this case, this guy's Vincent, and I chose him for, overarchingly his overall facial structure, head structure is closest to me, by my estimation, versus any of the other options. And then I looked for other traits in other characters that might be of use. And so in this mode here, I can hit the blend mode, for example, and we can see that there are some little circles on different portions of the body. So if I click here on this circle on the nose, what I've done is I'm choosing between Natalia and Wallace here. Again, I'm clicking on the circle on the nose, and I've got all of the different characters in my palette that I'm able to choose from, and I can blend, essentially between 3 at a time. So in the center is Vincent. Here in the upper left is Wallace. Directly up is Natalia. And if I fall in between, like, oh, okay, that nose looks kind of like me, and so on. So same thing with mouth. In this case, I was kind of blending between Miles and Aoi. I think for the eyes, I was using Zachary here. And so all 6 of these different sets of facial features are being used in different ways in different regions of the face that I'm kind of creating for myself to try and approximate something that looks a little bit like me. Once I've finished with the blending and used that to the best of my ability to get close, I can go ahead and choose the next level of detail is a sculpt mode. And in sculpt mode, I can have symmetry on or off. I'm going to leave it on for now. And this gives me an opportunity to use little smaller circles, and maybe I can pull the sides of the nose in a little bit. I'm just right-clicking here to look from a different angle. Maybe the tip of my nose goes out a little bit, but the bridge may be in. And you can see that each of these is adjusting the face in a slightly different way. Again, we're symmetrical right now. So if for some reason I felt like, well, I want this side of my mouth to move a little bit different than the other side, maybe I will click in here and drag this down a little bit. We also have a move selector that allows us to kind of select a grouping of these controls all at once. And this lets us kind of roughly sculpt a face based on these various templates. I probably have a little more chin.
And one of the things is, and there's part of this is that you may want to do something where you have someone look exactly like somebody else, but there's also the ability to create lots of characters that look roughly like what you want them to look like. So for when you're talking about previs or a game or other things, you may not need or want them to look like somebody else. So we're talking about trying to match somebody, but what's really cool about this is that you can output so many different characters very, very quickly.
Exactly. So, maybe if I wanted to try and make a digital child version of myself, maybe, right? So I'll, try and select a little bit of a different hairstyle here. And so back when I had hair, for the body proportions, one of the things that I could do is increase the head scale versus the rest of the body. So that's going to make the character appear younger. I could also make the body a bit shorter. And so now I originally started by choosing facial features that matched something that was close to me, but now I'm just trying to make this a little bit younger. And then I can go into the skin for the face. And again, I was choosing something that's textured somewhat similar to myself, but I can choose a different face texture here, maybe something smoother and younger, and maybe more freckles or something here. I don't know. I'll just stop right there. So that's an option. Again, with the eyes, maybe I want to push the eyes to be a little bit larger and wider. Again, trying to make the overall look a bit younger.
And what I will say is that this is endless hours of fun, outside of doing anything that you may need to do. Remember, you can export these out and use them in production, but just remember also that this is just fun. You're like working on the look of something, and I find it to just be a really enjoyable experience just to sit around, and it's like another way to doodle.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have a lot of ability to operate within the scope of this software itself. One of the other things is that I think that we can put a graphic here onto this sweatshirt here. And what's nice is what's really happening is this is a PNG file with 3 different, red, green, blue masks. And so once this is over in Unreal Engine, I could replace this with any other set of colors and any other logo if I wanted to. So essentially what I'm doing is creating
so
something.
It's just saying, oh, there's a logo there, but the logo could be be swapped out completely. It's just giving you a logo is here, but it doesn't have to be that logo.
It's a logo placeholder essentially.
Right.
Exactly. So the fact that I've got this here means that this existing texture is going to go over to Unreal Engine when I send this into an Unreal Engine project. And then I can, take a look at, what the 3 colors, there's 2 different shades of gray and a blue being used. And all of that is reconfigurable in the engine. So I could make, a wardrobe of several different hoodies, for example, and just by changing the colors of the fabrics and things like that after export. There's also quite a bit of functionality in terms of the details, like the eyes. So in addition to color, we can have a lot of variation in the color, and there's different patterns for the iris, the cornea, and all of this. So just like you said, endless hours of fun,
and especially for things that we would consider. Again, when you throw these all together, we'll talk about matching folks and doing those types of things, but as what we would consider, like you're going to fill a bunch of things, being able to have this level of control over essentially NPCs, non-player characters inside of our event or our show, is really useful. It's just I can make something and, with some kind of interaction, I can either just throw a bunch of these together, but in one, afternoon, you can build 20, 30 different characters that you can throw into Unreal or something else, so that you have people doing things, back there, and they're not all the same.
Absolutely, yeah. And so the other thing that you can do with this, because of the level of detail that they have, is you could bring these into Unreal Engine and test different potential lighting setups. And that's one of the things that's exciting for me, is that even without having direct access to a given person, you could style a MetaHuman similar to somebody you're going to interview. And maybe you had a chance to stop at the interview location and either do a LiDAR scan or photogrammetry capture, so that you can basically digitally create a twin of that location. And then you could start trying out different lighting setups. And there's a limited number of lighting setups built into this already. So if I wanted to try like an indoor setting versus the a studio setting, or try an outdoor setting, already I can, kind of audition some different setups. But you can also imagine, again, with Unreal Engine, that we could practice with different lighting placement and really get a sense of, what might work well for this particular person. So
And-
those are,
And again,
just-
the amount of time, what you're able to do now inside of MetaHuman that in a matter of minutes would really be weeks of modeling, of building, of and envelopes, and all the other bits and pieces that would be required to put this together for every character. And here you can sit there and just throw a bunch of things together, and have something that you can actually use. Now, I know in the future we're gonna jump in, and we've got some questions starting to stack up here. But in the future, we're going to talk a little bit about building it directly from photos. That'll be another hour, but maybe we can get a little bit of a preview of that before we jump into that.
Yeah, I mean, I can show really quickly.
And we're going to talk about this in more detail. So, but
I think it's fair to share that, if you don't use the photogrammetry approach, and there's also something called MetaHuman Animator that is optimized for iOS devices for capturing a real world face. You can
talk about that a little bit. So what we're talking about there is that you can generate these MetaHumans. You can then send them to Unreal, and then you have an iPhone app that can drive that face. And what's important is that all of the linkages between your facial motion and the face that was generated by MetaHuman are already done for you, which is, again, days, weeks of work to get it just right.
Exactly. So, this is something that we'll probably have to have a few episodes with down the road. But you can see that what we're looking at here is the
does
MetaHuman.
Look a scary version of you now. Like we've gone from being, it looks kind of like you to it looks a lot like you. It's
right. And I mean, what I can do is that's the raw geometry that comes from the scanning approach, and then this is the result after I've gone ahead and applied skinning and gotten the hairstyle about right, and so eye colors and that sort of thing. So this is much closer to me than what I was capable of doing with essentially the push-pull of blending, and that's because it is based on a photogrammetry reality capture 3D scan of my head. Had a bunch of students. I think Laura was involved in photographing that, and that's the output really matches the actual structure of my face, and so then we can also try. I can. Right now, this is the idle. We could try a few different animations things, so we can make my body poses different. So here's an emotional body pose.
why?
We can do this. Let's see. I think there's a sport one where I'm going over a hurdle or something like this. So there's an interesting lighting artifact there. There is also facial range of motion, and what I will note is that a lot of the expressions that are in the MetaHuman rig out of the box are pretty close. The smiles don't match my smile. Like, that's not how I smile. So I would probably need to make some adjustments in how the facial rig works. But honestly, the blank face and a lot of these other kind of silly faces do not look entirely unlike me. And so, okay, well, this is my morning routine, I guess. And there's also a body range of motion where, we get to kind of see the full body, working through its paces. I will note that one of the things that is a dramatic improvement to the MetaHuman system in general is that, the reason we have to log into this is that the data about each MetaHuman that we create is saved under our individual accounts. And it used to be that the only way for me to share a MetaHuman with somebody else or someone else to share with me is they would have to create an empty Unreal Engine project, export the MetaHuman into that, zip up that project, which might be gigabytes of data, send that to me. But now there is an import and export feature. So I can hit export right now. It will collect a basically MetaHuman binary file, MHB file, and it's only 2.5
so
megabytes.
This is not the geometry. This is just all the data that defines what that character looks like.
Exactly. So it's not, the XYZ of every vertex. It's not, because the UVs are standard. The texture is a selection, so it's just the data that defines what this MetaHuman is. And now I could share this file with anyone else that has an Epic account. They could go into MetaHuman Creator, import this file with the import button, and they would have this exact MetaHuman, and they could then use it in their own Unreal Engine projects. Or you can also basically export a Maya project file so that you could go in and do, again, it's kind of going down the rabbit hole where you can do further customizations to the rigging. They call it the MetaHuman DNA that really defines the facial performance parameters. But even without going into Maya, I'll just switch over to Unreal Engine, for example, here. I've just taken a standard.
It's like the most serious I've ever seen.
What were you going to say?
He looks so serious. He's like, I am
here
for business.
I'm so serious. Like this is, Neo Nick. So in the MetaHuman, I'm in Unreal Engine now here. So if I set this to the beginning, I've just applied a video game idle scenario to this, and so there I am, just doing a standard animation that's off of a game character, but also the face can be animated. I can go ahead and activate. I think there should be a control rig. Yes, control rig and face control rig. I think this is it. Let's try this button here. I'm used to seeing the facial control rig show up here, and I'm not sure why that's not showing up, but we'll give it a try. Face control rig. Let's try that. All right. And so this is one of two control rigs that allow me to then, hand animate essentially the characters, so I can deactivate my snapping, so I have a little more flexibility. There we go.
And for those who haven't done this before, it's a lot of setup. Like this was a lot of before when someone would hand you, it's bad enough that they had to build the whole 3D model and then they had to do all the things that are there, but then it comes through and it has to be all defined, and all of these facial motions and everything else had to be redefined by someone painstakingly. And oftentimes you'd have some rigs that made it a little easier, but it's not, this kind of work, wasn't trivial 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, I'm just going to delete this here for a second and just show like the full blown facial control rig. I mean, this is really every bit as good as most feature film characters, and certainly most video game characters. I mean, the level of control that you have, each one of these yellow circles here is a discrete control over some aspect of the face, right? So this is the eyes, and the rig is defined in such a way that as the eyes move, the eyelids are being animated with them. But I still have direct control over some aspects of the forehead, and this is a very, very discrete controlling. There's how sticky are the lips and how much do they stick together. And another set of controls is that there is a pre-built library of poses that are built in to the MetaHuman system. So I'm just trying to see if I can navigate my way to those pose library. Let's see, can I add that in? Let's see, did it? Control, I'm trying to get this. Well, I can't get to it easily right now. Here we go. Face, you can do it. We can do it. Physemes and expressions. Let me just do expressions. Okay, great. So there's already this library of expressions. So I'll put on my angry eyes, and so I just select the controls and paste that pose, and immediately I've got that pose. And if I work with my timeline here, I could select, my blank face, select controls, put that pose in, and then for the face, I can set a keyframe to that. And let me go back up to here and just set a facial control rig keyframe. So there at the beginning of this animation, I'm pretty calm. And then maybe right here, I get a little perturbed and disgusted. And then, then I get really angry about what's going on And so I apply that. And I guess what I did is I forgot to apply my keyframes. So let me activate auto keying and collapse this a little bit. And there we go. Put a keyframe there. And right here, I will be a little saddened right here. Let's try that. There we go. And hopefully, yep, it's automatically setting keys for me. So now, I have a little animation of changes in expressions here very quickly with just a few clicks. And because all of this is provided as a free kit, and so I could manually animate as an animator, or I can go ahead and apply facial motion capture. Again, there's a free app for iOS that you can use on iOS for iPad or iPhones.
And how hard is it to map the iOS app to the?
It's already mapped, so there's no hard to do. The hardest part is just to make sure that your iOS device is on the same network, and the computer that Unreal Engine is on is communicating with your iOS device. So you do some network ping and double check your IP addresses and your ports, and then usually it just works. So.
Yeah, exactly. And a reminder that everything we're showing you right now is free, right? So the Unreal is free. If you're not making more than $1 million, the Unreal is free, the MetaHuman is free, the iOS app is free. So we're not. The only thing that would cost money is the capture tools to make it look just like you are free. So all these tools right now that we're talking about are not going to set you back thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars. This is all things that you can just start downloading and start using, which is one of the reasons we wanted to show it to folks. Down the road, we hope to do more and more digital production. And there's a couple different places that we look at it. Obviously, being able to tell cinema stories and so on and so forth is important, but being able to previs, being able to, very quickly throw things together. I think as a storyboarding tool, as a pre-visualization tool, and of course, game tools and other things are also important. But if you're thinking about, getting good enough in Unreal that you can do layouts. I just want to do a layout where I just want someone to, I just want to do a layout, and maybe you're not even animating it. You just want them to be singing, or you want them to be doing this one thing, or you want them to be dancing or moving around. Just the layouts for your shoots. This is very valuable.
Yeah, I was just going to share that where things can start getting expensive and where we become expensive friends is the accessories and all. So this is an example.
Isn't it always? It's always the accessories that get you in trouble.
It's right. Yeah. This thing, it only cost me $50, but then I had to buy a $150 device to go with it. And so this is, for example, a set of outfits. Now, the thing is that things go on sale, right? So I think that I probably got this at 50% off or more at one point. And when it was on sale, I went and I got it. So this is a collection of alternative clothing outfits for both male and female MetaHumans. And this is actually independent. Like, it does have its own, like, this face is the 3D model human that comes with it. But this entire kit is set up to work with MetaHumans. So, I just click a button to basically add those assets to my Unreal Engine project. And so now here's the same MetaHuman, but it's on, an outfit that it doesn't exist in the MetaHuman creator per se. I could put that on, or, I can, this is actually like a really, really detailed, like, firefighting uniform. And honestly, this is part of what sold that, that collection for me, is that if I am going to do a demonstration for first responders, I want to have like something that's a plausible firefighter's outfit. And here's more of an outdoor exploring kind of outfit with a backpack and such. And so these are all commercially available. And this is a $600 set, but there are many. This one author, for example, has far less expensive options. So if you just want a pair of shorts, okay, well, that's $15, or a jacket, et cetera, and so forth. So, and this is just one author in the marketplace. There are plenty. And actually, the other thing is, I think next week's show, we're going to have folks from ZWeave come on where they provide software where you can create your own fashion that works with MetaHumans. So
now you can see why when you look at all these accessories and the cost, you can see why Epic doesn't want to pay Apple 30% because they want to create these marketplaces where you create your own characters and then you start to buy all the stuff, and they don't want to have to pay some extra on top of that to Apple to do that. But that's, if you're wondering what is the source of their upset, is not so they can sell more of their games or something like that. It's because they want to sell all these little things out to everyone and not pay a third of it back to Apple.
And we're seeing that play out with the Fortnite version of Unreal. One of the new developments in the last month or two is that it supports MetaHumans now. Disney is allowing their IP into Unreal for Fortnite. And so folks can go in there and start playing and creating their own worlds, sharing it with friends. That you can buy and sell assets, and you can. There are brands that are creating their own destination locations and showing off, what their brand identity is. And again, there is really no cost barrier to entry, licensing, dongles, anything like that. All the software is downloadable for free. Even motion capture today. I mean, there are a lot of simple video-based AI motion captures, Move AI, for example, and Radical, and a few others where all you need is a video camera and perform for the video camera, and the AI will at least approximately create that animation as a FBX file, full body skeleton animation that you can then retarget in Unreal Engine without the need for any other software. So there's a lot that you can do with this without a significant investment, other than you probably do on a PC with an RTX board. It's going to make it much smoother for you.
Yeah.
But really, once you've crossed that hurdle, you can get started without as further significant investment, and it becomes practice and time, and then maybe adding a few things here and there, and then next thing you know, you are the motion capture fashion, a motion capture suit, whether it's inertial or otherwise, those add up.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Let's jump into the questions.
Yeah.
First one comes from Rick Markley in Wisconsin. Rick says, what are some of your suggestions for the best budget-conscious face scanning apps? I'm currently using Qlone with mixed results.
Go ahead, Nick.
So I've just started using reality capture entirely for that. I used Metashape before, and reality capture works great. So all you need is a camera, and bonus points if you cross polarize your lighting, and you can search Pixelprof cross polarize, and there's a whole video about that, where the advantage of cross polarization is it gets rid of all the shiny on a face and allows the photogrammetry software to really just see the skin color itself without any interference from reflections and shine, and that works gloriously. And then Unreal Engine has its own plugin for transforming that output, that model that comes from photogrammetry, and turning that into the MetaHuman. It sounds like you might have already tried that, but I would use reality capture from a photogrammetry standpoint. There is also
and we're going to do another session as by the way, this is our introductory session to MetaHuman, but we are going to do a whole session on using reality capture and building a MetaHuman and bringing it in. So stay tuned for that. But anyway, go ahead, Nick.
Yeah. And there is also a free app. It's called LiveLink Face for iOS, and it operates in two modes. The live mode, the traditional mode, is just for animating an existing MetaHuman, but the MetaHuman Animator mode of it will actually step you through the process of capturing images using the depth sensor of the iOS device from a couple different angles of your face, and also even capturing your teeth. And then all of that data gets loaded into a module in Unreal Engine, which then does a little bit of AI and feeds it to MetaHuman Creator, and we'll use that to create a MetaHuman identity. So I would definitely give both those a try, and they're all built into the Unreal ecosystem.
Sorry, I'm going to back you up there for a second. So there is what's the app again that does that uses the depth sensor?
So the app is LiveLink Face.
So it's the same one. It's not, you're not getting a different one.
It's the same exact
animator
app.
mode.
Yeah. There's two modes. There's the live AR face, and that's the traditional legacy mode, and that still works fine. And that's literally what they used to drive Patrick and SpongeBob for the Super Bowl, right? So this is not non-commercial, or it's not it's real in that mode itself. But then there is a new mode that was added over the last year. I think it was about a year ago that it got added, called MetaHuman Animator. And that is capturing stills with the depth sensor as well as the photo camera. And it prescribes certain angles for you to capture those stills from. And it wants a frame that it wants to see your teeth. And it uses those images to create the MetaHuman identity that is the facial structure itself. And the reason it's doing that, I mean, you can use that identity then to eventually create a MetaHuman, but it's doing that because then it will record the facial performances that are going to get applied to the MetaHuman, and it's comparing all of the deformation of the facial performance with the calibration poses, the blank face poses at all times. And it's doing that three-dimensionally, and it's doing that in post. It's not doing it live on the iOS device. You have to upload that data to your computer. And as a result, you get much more accuracy out of that performance. So free stuff.
We'll play with that some more. But again, I think that when you think about doing, and it's not just doing pre-visualization for TV or film, think about layouts for your corporate events and examples of what you want. A lot of these things are downloaded. We downloaded a whole stage, a music stage that we needed a couple pieces from. We downloaded the whole stage for, I don't know, it was like $30 or $40 or something. We downloaded it. It had DMX and all the lights. It had, a lot of layout, and like all that stuff can be kind of pulled down, and there's an enormous amount of things that are available. But also think about, as educators, this could be the next generation of some of the content that you might build for your classes, to talk about history, to talk about other things like that. These are all things that could be added. Next question.
Next one comes from Paul Wallace in Austin, Texas. Can MetaHumans be used to create digital doubles of real people? And what are the implications of this? For example, the Scarlett Johansson brouhaha.
Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, so of course, the brouhaha with Scarlett Johansson is the AI voice that sounded very much like her voice, and clearly that had not been done with her permission. So absolutely, you can get yourself into difficulties with folks that are very, very conscious about how their identity, how their likeness is used, and that is their livelihood. So, and those folks that is their livelihood have lawyers whose livelihood is to pursue any of those infringements.
It's their livelihood to protect their livelihood. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So again, I imagine that there are room for fair use. I am not a lawyer, but if you're creating a parody, there's lots of examples like Robot Chicken, for example, that will leverage existing likenesses and IP and things like that, and so there are those gray areas. Obviously, it's in general interest to not tick off people. So, if you want to work with somebody specifically, I mean, there are entire companies now that do work with, I guess, celebrities, both living and deceased, working with the estates of celebrities who have passed, about creating digital doubles of those folks and having their legacies live on. It was pretty big news a few months ago where the rock band Kiss, officially transitioned to becoming avatars themselves, so that, they worked with ILM to have digital doubles created of them so that their brand IP can live on.
I just think that the best part of it is that Kiss went to see ABBA and then decided that's what they want to do too. There's something about the Kiss guys going to see ABBA that is awesome. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, Nick, since you're so immersed in this and you keep really close track of it, if there's a suspension bridge that's crossing the uncanny valley and we're all wondering if it's ever going to reach the other side, where do you think we are in terms of that of eliminating that feeling of otherness when we're watching these creations. I know it's not here quite yet, but what's your feeling about when and how we might cover the span?
So there is a lot of artistry that goes into crossing that bridge. So I had the good fortune to have the opportunity to work with Digital Domain on Curious Case of Benjamin Button, and that's over 10 years old now, or getting close there anyway. No, it's way over 10 years old now. It's been a long time. And you know, I think one of the greatest points of pride is being on the team that worked on the digital double there, and to see shots that were digital double pointed to when the Oscar award for best makeup was being, this is this one for best makeup, and here's an example of why it won for best makeup. It's like that's not makeup, but okay, thanks. You know, so it's possible to cross that uncanny valley. The number of incredibly highly skilled people involved in that is huge, and it's, you know, I think the other week we were talking about how the Corridor Crew folks were working with you know, Debevec to do the sodium vapor process, and like, oh, you're working with Debevec, of course you're going to do well. You know, now be on a team of Debevecs, and so so you can cross it. So can you, as an individual, cross it? Well, that's going to take a lot of practice, right? So motion capture helps because you're capturing natural human motion as opposed to attempting to keyframe match. The motion capture of the face gets you a certain distance. It's going to capture some of the, you know, eye darts and things that you might not think of as a newcomer to animation. But it also has, in the industry, a lot of times we call it digital sandpaper. Like, it doesn't notice every single nuance. And so, you know, you kind of go in there and fix some things. And, you know, there might be a B or a P or an M that's stated in dialogue. And well, the mocap didn't quite close the lips there. So we need to go and make sure all of those things get done. So I guess my answer to your question is it's absolutely possible today. It's been done. There are things that folks maybe didn't even realize were digital that were digital, and they happened already. And with this tool set, I think that it is possible to get really, really close. In the meantime, the general population has become more and more accustomed to watching digital characters and more accepting of them as well. So I think that you can do a lot with them. And especially if you say, well, here's a video game version of myself, all of a sudden folks don't worry about how far across that uncanny bridge that you've gotten. It's like, oh, this is a video game character. I can accept that. And so sometimes it's just in the presentation. And
I would say that there are so many opportunities to do things that just don't require you to get over the valley. You know, like on our side of the valley, there are, you know, cartoons, there is historical, you know, recreations, there is for education, there is, you know, tons of all kinds of cool videos and everything else. And you know, when you think about the quality, it's kind of like, if you think about, I was trying to explain this to somebody, and this is what I use. I said, you think about the quality going like this, right? And this is the, you know, the uncanny valley lives somewhere, you know, in here, right? The level of effort these days to do this is like this. It goes like this, and then it goes like this, and then it just goes like that. Like, it's just like, you know, like this isn't, there's not a lot of effort to do, you know, and what this gives us is all of this takes very little effort. And then as you start getting, it gets a little harder as you start to go, and then it gets harder, and then it just goes into almost impossible. But living down here, you know, which is better than almost everything else we've seen 10 years ago in cartoons or anything else. Like this, and this is constantly moving, like this area here is constantly moving that direction. And so you just want to think about the fact that there are so many things that we could do that are fun with these characters, whether it's, again, pre-visualization, education, games, you know, all these types of things, corporate, you know, videos, so on and so forth. If we're willing to say we're not going to try to cross the valley, that valley is really big and deep and dangerous. We're going to stay on this side of the valley, and we're going to make it, you know, have fun with it. There's an enormous amount that you can do for with no cost, you know, to the hardware and software, and so much stuff that used to take us weeks or months to do. I think is super exciting. crossing the valley is like, it's dangerous.
Is it fair to say, Nick, that it is possible, but it still requires so much effort that unraveling that and seeing something, and this is to Paul Wallace's question from Austin, you can still kind of unspool things and know that this was created as opposed to natural, unless you're working at the highest level, and even then there's probably some tells. I
guess I'm just going to jump in because we're going to keep moving, but what I will say is that look at Rogue One is, ILM had all the money in the world and it still didn't quite work. Like it was like they didn't quite get over the Uncanny Valley, and they had all the money in the world. The deep fake stuff is actually getting closer to it than actually using geometry. The deep fake stuff is actually doing a better job at doing some of those things. And the reality is, as it turns out, when we talk about Scarlett Johansson, is there's a high probability, not a guarantee, that voice was created long before they talked to Scarlett Johansson, and it got them thinking about having Scarlett Johansson do it. But there was no attempt to copy Scarlett Johansson in that area, and that's the danger that we get ourselves into. Is that they, the woman who sounds like Scarlett Johansson just sounds like Scarlett Johansson. Like, that's what she sounds like. And we're going to be building characters and people say, well, it looks just like this person. And maybe it does. So that's going to be the hard part. Next question. Go ahead, Rick, real quick.
Yeah, I was just going to mention, actually, if you recall a couple of years ago, I was demoing where I would take a MetaHuman and then I would apply a deepfake on top of that.
Right.
So just taking that little bit of, the MetaHuman to drive the basics of it, and then use an actual large language model deepfake on top.
Yeah, absolutely. Next question.
Dave Troutman at Edmonton, Canada comes up next. Could a designer copyright a MetaHuman design or creation?
I think we jumped one here. Can you?
Did we?
Sure.
I can take that question.
It just makes it hard in our system.
Let's go back and I'll do the Douglas Carmichael.
You got to get.
Is there any way to have a MetaHuman track live video input?
Go ahead, Nick.
So you would use multiple solutions. Off the top of my head, I can't remember which of the AI video solutions do offer a live video transformation, so that it would generate live motion capture for body, so the arms and the legs and all of that. I think Move AI is one of them, but I think there are a few solutions that will take a full body video, and ideally, maybe from multiple cameras, and give you that approximate full body motion. Now, there's also, things like Vicon and OptiTrack that can absolutely track, under the hood. Those are video systems. And so they can track a person moving around live, and that can drive a MetaHuman. And then there are also separate solutions for the face. So Faceware is one where they have Faceware Studio that can take a live feed and usually use a little tiny camera, ideally SDI or something like that, and that can be tracked by the Faceware Live software, and immediately that is live, manipulating the facial control rig of the MetaHuman. So you can do that. You eliminate, of course, if you're doing that live and you're doing that for a live broadcast, you eliminate any opportunity for an artist to get in there and tweak the performance of that, in that live setting. But all of that is recordable as well, and then you can go edit that further in post.
Next question.
Dave Troutman's comes up now from Edmonton. Could a designer copyright a MetaHuman design or creation?
Good, Nick.
I believe you should be able to. Now, again, I am not a copyright lawyer. I'm not any kind of lawyer. But there is the export of the MHB, the MetaHuman binary file. Technically, you as a human being authored that file using the tool. I don't see that as being particularly different than, taking some digital photos and blending them together and using Photoshop to create a new digital file. So there are enough variations, certainly billions, if not more, possibilities within the scope of that configuration. So I think that you should be capable of copyrighting that MHB file. Could someone, get that MHB and alter it a little bit? Probably. Could you take that MHB and put it on an NFT? Probably. So yeah, that would be my answer to that.
Yeah, and I think that copyright's going to get really complicated. As we kind of move forward, I think that what you really want to be looking at is, you could try to copyright it, but what really is all the things that you can use, whether you need the copyright or not. You may have a copyright on something there, but there's an enormous amount of content that can be created where copyright is not that important, and it's like 99% of the market. Next question.
Douglas Carmichael, how can you synchronize the movements of a MetaHuman's mouth to live or recorded speech?
Go ahead, Nick.
So again, for live speech, you would want to use either the LiveLink face software, and you have a microphone, and you might need to do a little bit of audio delay because the iOS device is translating the information into controls, and those controls are going to Unreal, and then Unreal is rendering. But in that way, you could have the facial movements of a MetaHuman in sync with live audio. And the same is true for Faceware Studio, where again, Faceware Studio would be getting a live feed from a video camera, translating into MetaHuman controls, and that handles live. So that's the live part of the question. And then recorded is a lot easier. Again, with Faceware is only monitoring video, so you would have another system for capturing your audio to record the audio. But when you animate MetaHumans, you're using a functionality in Unreal Engine called the sequencer. That's basically the timeline. It's like Final Cut or DaVinci Resolve in Unreal Engine, and you can put your audio file on there, and you can set markers on the timeline and say, okay, here's the different syllables, and you can synchronize by moving on the timeline the captured facial performance controls, and then once you've got that set up, you can go in and edit, and everything stays in sync.
Next question.
Comes out of Nick in New York City, and it's one of our QR code submissions. What's the process for using LiveLink to receive real-time motion capture data from a live person?
Go ahead, Nick.
So the process is, number one, your iOS device it needs to be on the exact same network as your Unreal Engine machine. And you don't need
IPs or anything else. They'll discover themselves on that network?
It's better to have the IPs. They will discover themselves, but I personally like to make sure I can see the two IP addresses and that I can ping one from the other. I have a network tool on my iOS devices, so I can do a ping of the PC and vice versa. I've run into issues where it's usually the firewall on the PC that's blocking communication in one direction or another. And so I always just like to make sure they can ping each other, and that's good. But then once they're both on the network and you have LiveLink Face on the iOS device running, and it sees your face, and you can tell by the display in LiveLink Face software that, okay, it's tracking your face. That should show up there's a LiveLink window in Unreal, and you get a green light. Oh, there's this iOS device. It's streaming LiveLink data, and I've got a green light because I'm actively getting data from that. So that's it. Then finally, there is a checkbox setting on the MetaHuman character itself that you want to activate so that it's basically responding to the LiveLink data coming in. And you might have multiple performers, each one of them with their own iOS device. So you want to be able to assign, okay, this iPhone is going to this character, and this iPad is going to that character, and that's kind of a walkthrough. Again, we could probably do at least an hour on that. So,
and we will.
We'll come back to that.
so one of the things we want to do is, this is the beginning. We're going to be coming back to this because I think it's such an important understanding how to use these Unreal tools. I think it's really, really important for a lot of us. Again, whether you're doing corporate, educational, broadcast, film, all these things that are there. YouTube videos, all of these things it's really important for our community to have a group of people that understand it. Maybe not everybody's going to do this right now, but my goal is to get 20, 30, 40, 50 people that are using it so that we're getting good at it, so that when you realize that you need it, that there's other people in the community that have already been playing with it. So expect us to be talking about this fairly regularly, and we will come back to another hour on how to use the photogrammetry to build the face. Another one that's dedicated to just animating it. We'll keep on coming back to these things and showing you different parts of the pipeline, because I think it's really, really important for not everybody, but some of us to understand how it works. Next question.
Nikhil Kimkolkar in New Jersey is back again with Nick. I'm looking at Cascadeur for animating MetaHumans, but it seems not as automated as I'd like. It seems to require me to do rigging and so forth in Cascadeur before their prompt-like animation becomes possible. Thoughts or other options, perhaps?
Good, Nick.
So I haven't used Cascadeur yet myself, but my impression from it is that it should be able to take your prompts and perform animations. So you should be able to use any of the quote-unquote standard characters that are built into Cascadeur. I've used another AI tool called Mootion, Mootion, that runs kind of through a Discord interface. And my experience with these is that they're capable of animating and with their own character sets, with their own character skeletons, and exporting as an FBX. So as long as you can get an animated FBX character out of the tool, then that should be readily importable into Unreal Engine. There might be a small little bit of rigging where you just, if the character skeleton isn't something that's standard in Unreal Engine parlance, it's just identifying, okay, well, this chain of joints, this belongs to the arm, and this is the left arm, and this is the right arm, and it really goes very, very quickly. Again, I have a tutorial video on that within minutes you can essentially define a brand new character that Unreal Engine has never seen before and say, well, this is left arm, right arm, spine, two legs, neck and head. And at that point, any animation that's on that character can now be applied to any standard character, including MetaHumans inside Unreal Engine. So I feel like I'll probably have to look at Cascadeur and just do a video about that, but it should be straightforward. My expectation from what I've seen of Cascadeur is that it should be able to export an FBX, and you should be able to bring that into Unreal, and you shouldn't need to do any customization on the Cascadeur side from there.
Next question.
Courtney Gooden in Hollywood, California. How do you think the new tools like Vaso 1 from Microsoft Research that can realistically animate faces and head movement from any audio track will affect productivity in character animation?
Good, Nick.
Yeah, this is great. There's also NVIDIA has a tool called Audio to Face that has been around for a year or two at this point, and it's also free. It's part of their whole I forget what their metaverse tool set is, Omniverse or something like that. And it's great because you can just give it an audio file and it will generate all the control patterns. That actually has the interfaces for MetaHumans already built into it. So you could feed, I know the NVIDIA audio to face, you can feed that audio of dialogue and it will create an animated set of controls that will operate MetaHumans. I mean, it does swallows and kind of all kinds of things like that. So absolutely, I think this is all going to, we call it democratization. It's going to democratize this tool set where these kinds of things used to only be possible with multi-million-dollar budgets, and now for free, you can get started and get a result that you can start to work with. Anything that can take audio and give you facial performance control data is going to give you that much further down the road in terms of the production. I mean, if we're teaching facial animation, we start with, okay, well, a Muppet kind of is facial animation, and all it does is open and close its mouth, right? So we start with that, and then we have more expression in our own lips. So our lips go wide and narrow, and our lips go open and closed, and so we work through teaching manual animation through all of these different things. And a tool like Vaso or Audio to Face, does several of those steps for us and gets us to a point where, okay, I just want to tune this up a little bit, or I want a little tweak, or I want a little glimmer in the eye. And so it makes all of us much more productive.
Yeah, and I think it's really good. I think, again, when we get into this, like, how we're going to replace actors, it's going to take a little while. it's hard to find actors that are good at what they do, let alone something that's going to copy them. There's only a handful of actors that do a really, really, really good job, and they get paid a lot of money to do it. And that's other human beings doing it. And so I think getting to a point where the AI is doing it as well as those is probably a little ways out. But there's all these opportunities to use it in so many other places. Go ahead, Nick.
I was just going to note too, Alex, you used the Rogue One example earlier, and one of my favorite characters is K2SO, and there was an actor behind that, that had his own performances on set and his voice that helped bring that character to life, and then a whole team of animators to animate the CG robot itself. But that performance began with an actor.
There's some core part of a person, I think we think that we like the character they're playing, but really, we see Tom Cruise playing this character and then this character, then this character. It's 3 different names, but it's still Tom Cruise. And people have decided that that's something that they like, but that comes from a lifetime of experience that shows up as that, whatever that is, whether it's Tom Cruise or Meryl Streep or whoever it is. There's a lifetime of experience that comes that I think AI, I think when people think that they're going to be replaced by extras, I think could be replaced relatively soon. Digital doubles could replace some of the stuff that stunt people do, which is often the things that really hurt stunt people. So some of that stuff can, those kinds of things I think make more sense. But I think that when you're talking about actually replacing the A-level and B-level actors, probably a little ways out, but still coming, but probably a little ways out. Next question.
Josh Kaufman at Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania has our last one. What are the tools and workflow for animating the body movements of MetaHumans along with the face motion capture of the face?
Go ahead, Nick.
And so, again, there are multiple episodes we could do a show on this. But my own workflow here in our studio is we use a Vicon motion capture system, and that is feeding the body movements, including the head movements. And then we're usually using Faceware Studio or LiveLink Face to drive the face. And those can be run simultaneously on a single network, and one instance of Unreal Engine can receive both of them and route the facial performance to the face and the body performance to the body. And we can capture within Unreal Engine, or we can capture on those independent tools. In fact, Unreal Engine comes with a tool called Switchboard that'll allow you to hit a single record button and give a single slate name, and it'll populate all of the controls for all of the various heterogeneous recording systems. And when you hit record, all of them start recording at once. And you can hit stop recording at the same time. So that's one workflow. I mean, we also have OptiTrack here. There are inertial suits like Perception Neuron, Xsense, Rococo, etc. So there are a lot of tools that can capture body, and there are a lot of tools that can animate the face, and they're fully interchangeable with one another. Unreal has been designed to be very accommodating of all of these different systems, whether that data is coming in live or being imported as a file. And certainly this is material we should be covering in future episodes.
And we definitely will be. So thanks, Nick, for taking so much time to put this together and be ready for it. We really appreciate your time. And we appreciate all the panelists' time. We can't do this without you, both for the first hour and the second hour. And we thank all of the great producers asking all the great questions that we had, both in the first hour and the second hour. And finally, thank you to the incredible team on the back end that makes this possible every single day. There's teams that are developing the tools that we use. There's people who are trying to figure out what we're going to talk about next week or tomorrow. There are people who are actually cutting the show and then putting together the emails and putting together the website and putting together the thumbnails. There's a huge village that makes this show possible, and we appreciate all of your contribution. Today, if we had walked around and we didn't have the Tlaloc traversal, we would have traveled 55,000 miles. That is 88,000 kilometers. And that is 432 million bananas for scale. All right, let's go ahead and jump into After Hours. I feel like we could just talk about MetaHuman every once a month or something like that. Well, let's capture.
It is a very deep rabbit hole. Honestly, it would be one of the less expensive rabbit holes that we dig into.
I know. We're doing so well. Everything was free today. You don't have to sell your house today. you might have to. You got a PC, I guess. I have a PC sitting here that we got for NEB.
Yeah.
So.
Just add time and effort.
Yeah, exactly. Just add time and effort. So very good. All right. Thanks, everybody. See you later.
Thanks.
Bye.